I indeed immerse you in water unto repentance, but he who is coming after me is mightier than I, whose sandals I am not worthy to bear, and he shall immerse you in the set-apart spirit and fire. And I'm going to say that, I don't know if this is an unqualified statement, but there's probably not too many things as misunderstood or misquoted or misrepresented as this baptism of fire thing. Most people, when they talk about the baptism of fire, they think of Acts chapter 2. Yes, there was an event that happened. Yes, there was something that appeared like lightning or fire and had to do with languages, but it was not a baptism. It was not a baptism. It was a gifting for a purpose that these leaders were going to need. This baptism immersion was to cleanse or to wash clean. You see that in the Tanakh, in the Old Testament. Often, when anything happened, they would have to immerse, or they would have to do immerse their clothing or immerse themselves. Or it's a washing, it's a cleansing. It also is a status change. A status change from tameh or unclean to tahor or clean. But the helper, the set-apart spirit, whom the Father shall send in my name, he shall teach you all and remind you of all that I have said to you. So if you're going to get immersed in this spirit, in this teaching, you're going to get instruction in Torah. So what happens after you've been washed clean, you've changed your state, you've immersed in Torah, guess what you need? You need to be tested. We have verse after verse, and we're going to read a lot of them, where it talks about being tested and tried and purified by fire. That's the baptism of fire. Fire, and we're not going to read that many of the verses, but Yahweh says, I'm a consuming fire. If you don't get purified by the fire, you're going to get consumed by the fire. I'll say that again. If you don't get cleansed and purified by the fire and pass the trial of fire, you're going to get consumed and burned up in the fire. So the fire can be a real positive, or it could be the end of the game. Game over, right? Done. It says, and Eleazar the priest said to the men of the campaign who went to the battle, this is the law of the Torah which Yahweh commanded Moshe. Only the gold and the silver, the bronze, the iron, and the tin, and the lead, every object that passes through fire, you put through the fire, and it shall be clean. Only let it be cleansed with the water for uncleanness, and whatever does not pass through the fire, you pass through the water. So what it's saying is, those things that don't burn up, like the clothing and other things, those things that that do burn up, you pass through water only. Those things like the objects of metal, you pass through the fire. Now notice what he says here. He says, these things are for uncleanness, and passing them through, they will be clean. They clean through that process. And so this is really critical to understand that. Now notice us, we as human beings, guess what we do? We go through both. We go through water and fire. Here it says there are certain things that only go through water and other things that only go through fire. Both are unclean and need to be cleansed. They are cleansed either by water or fire. We have to go through both. And who is able to bear the day of his coming, and who is able to stand when he appears? For he is like the fire of a refiner and like the soap of a launderer. And he shall sit as a refiner and the cleanser of silver, and he shall cleanse the sons of Levi and refine them as gold and silver, and they shall belong to Yahweh, bringing near an offering in righteousness. Then shall the offering of Yehudah and Jerusalem be pleasant to Yahweh, as in the days of old, as in the former years. So look at the metaphor. It's the same metaphor. He says he's coming, he's sending a messenger, and he's going to be like one who's a refiner or cleanser of silver, and like a launderer's soap. In those days, he used a lot of lye soap. That was some pretty harsh, rough stuff. So it wasn't any fun. And so there's no fun in this baptism of fire. This isn't one where everybody's all rolling on the floor and doing anything. This is a trial. This is a testing. This is a proving. This is a purification process. And the word of Yahweh came to me saying, now listen, this is where the metaphor gets really clear. Son of man, the house of Israel has become dross to me. What's dross? When they put silver, gold, etc. through the smelting fire, the impurities that float to the top, that's called the dross. That's the stuff that you don't want. That's the garbage. That's the stuff you're trying to get out and get rid of. Do you not understand that this is what John is talking about, that Yeshua is coming to do, is bring a baptism of fire? Oh, no, that's not what it means. It means all kinds of spiritual giftings, and we're going to all be doing all that. Really? Where does it say that? There's no verse that says that. There's not one single reference to Acts chapter 2 being a baptism. As a matter of fact, something was laid on them. They didn't go through anything. It said these tongues settled on them. They were receiving something, not going through something. For you, O Elohim, have proved us. You have refined us as silver is refined. You brought us into the net. You laid affliction on our loins. You have let men ride at our head. We went through fire and through water, but you brought us out to plenty. Do you see? It's all been there all the time in your book. Going through water and going through fire and then rejoicing because you get it now. But notice what he says. You proved us through fire and through water. Verse 2 is all about baptism of fire. Because at this point, they'd already been through the water, right? Didn't they go through the water? They passed through the water and they came through dry. And they'd already been to Sinai where they were immersed in Torah. But he let them go into the wilderness for 40 years after that. Why? That's the baptism of fire. Most of your life is the baptism of fire. It only takes a moment to go do the baptism of water. It takes a lot of study and time to fully immerse in the Ruach and allow the Ruach to teach and instruct you, but your whole life is those second two. That's why he says, I'm just doing the easy part, John says. I'm immersing you in water. The bigger piece of this is the one who's coming. He's going to immerse you in the Torah and he's going to put you through the fires to see if you got it. Not everyone who says to me, Master, Master, shall enter into the reign of the heavens, but he who is doing the desire of my Father in heaven. So that's what the fruit is. That's what's being checked out and tested here to see, are you doing the desires? You go through the water. You get immersed in the Torah instruction, and now you're tested to see whether you're doing the desires of my Father in heaven. And by the way, all those offerings in Leviticus, we're not going to go through them. What are they all offered? They're all offered by fire. Okay, they're offered by fire. We make ourselves a living sacrifice. We're offering by fire. We have to be purified by fire. We're going through this whole fiery process.